Welcome to this episode of Forgiving the Girl Inside, a Matter of the Heart. I'm your hostess, Lisa Drennan, and this is May of 2022. We are doing a podcast blast series titled Sharing the Secret, where this month, beautiful, courageous women are coming on post-abortion, miscarriage, or loss of a child, sharing their healing journey stories. Today, we have the beautiful Debbie. She has lost her son to mental illness and addiction. She has transformed her life by turning her pain into purpose by helping other parents of teens and young adults with mental illness and or addiction. She has been on a journey of love, which includes raising 3 children as a single mom. Her oldest son was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder and became addicted to drugs and alcohol, and she lost him when he was 26. Through that experience, she has opened up and shared her journey so that others may be healed too. So thank you so much, Debbie, for your willingness to share your story. Tell us, what was life like? You were a single mom with 3 kids. You had a lot going on with that. Were they all the same ages, like within a year apart, or?
Yeah, well, thank you for inviting me to speak on your podcast. I really appreciate it. So I raised 3 kids. They were all 20 months apart, actually. So they were really close in age, and they were really close. And because their father was a good distance away geographically and also emotionally, I think that was all the more reason my kids and I were all so close with each other. So we were just a really close family. And yeah, there were definitely a lot of challenges with my son's diagnosis and his addiction, and we were all really loving and supportive of him.
Yeah, that must have been hard to watch, especially at such a young age. Was it something that you recognized right away, or is it something that hit like in the teens? Was he fine up to that, or was it something that you saw signs of as he was growing?
That's such a great question. It literally hit age 17. He came to me one day, and he told me about being suicidal, and he described how he wanted to kill himself. And I just still remember that day, like if it was, it was 9 years ago, but I remember it if as if it was now. And we got in touch with the doctor, and she called over to the psychiatric hospital. We got him a spot there, and he was there for almost a month. And that was basically the turning point of when our lives changed. Honestly, as a child and as an early teen, life was really pretty normal. He played sports, he was social, and it felt sudden, but I think that it was probably coming on for maybe up to a year prior, but not over the years. So it's interesting because it was really pretty sudden.
Yeah, that must have been devastating as a mom to see your oldest boy, who made you a mom, go through such a struggle, difficult time. And was there ever a time where you blamed yourself that you didn't, you know?
I think sometimes I worried, like, what could I have done? Like, what could I have done differently? Like raising him, like, did something I do raising him? Like, how could this happen? Like, what happened? Like, why is this happening? And like, did I have a part in it? And what could I have done differently? So there was that part. And I think that was just part of me, sort of, is looking like, how am I responsible? So, sort of like an over responsibility, like, how am I responsible for this? And really, I was told that I wasn't.
Right. And a lot of times we just blame ourselves because we're the moms, and our children, that's our responsibility to love, care, and nurture them, and then to see them go. And, unfortunately, that mental disorder, it's a disease, and it's once it's gone, and then you add the alcohol and the drugs. It's like their mind's not their own. I have a brother that's bipolar schizophrenia, and when he's not on medication, I don't want anything to do with him. He's like totally out of control and very angry, and lashes out and very aggressive. So it's really difficult. That dynamic has an effect on everyone in the family. and, I know in your application, you had said that he had been in and out of hospitals, you had done everything you could possibly could. What was like the experience while you were going through trying to help him, going from hospital to hospital, and I imagine counselors and things like that? Like, what did you ever figure out like the disconnect was, or like if you could have gone back and done something differently, would you have been able to redo that?
There really wasn't something that we could have done differently that caused it. I mean, they said the normal age of onset was anytime between like, I think like late teens and early 20s. So he was like right on the cusp of that beginning, it coming out and in a place where they could diagnose him. And it was really tough because everything they said was true in that first hospitalization, where they said, it could take years to get the right combination of medicines to control the symptoms. And even then, they tend to go off their medications. And so
Yeah.
after the first hospitalization, it was this quest for me to find him like the best doctor and therapist out there that actually had experience dealing with what he had. I was convinced that like if we found the right people to surround him with for help, that he could live a normal life. And so it was this whole big quest. But what it turned out is that he was resistant. He was resistant to going to, at that age of 17, he didn't want to go to a psychiatrist. He didn't want to go to a therapist. And eventually we did find the right combinations. It was 3 medications. And when he didn't take them, he would get really paranoid, and he would start having hallucinations and get suicidal again. So those were sort of like his biggest symptoms that would come out. And I knew exactly which medicines he needed. So, over the years, if he would call me and say like, I'm feeling this, I'd be like, oh, you're off this medicine. Like I knew, because it was such this struggle to get the right combination. But so many times he just went off the meds and found the drugs
Yeah.
instead. And it was really challenging. And the beginning years, the hospitalizations were all like kind of pushed towards him, not really him wanting it. In his later years, as a young adult, he actually, the several years before he passed away, he actually got help himself several times. He put himself in treatment programs, in a local detox a couple of times, and then did a program over COVID that was virtual. But he had this wonderful counselor that he actually loved, and he didn't want the program to end. And that was so different from his teenage years, where it was like, okay, we're going to the therapist, we're going to the psychiatrist, we're going to do these things, we're going to go to the hospital. And it became a way of life. I mean, the in and out of the hospitals and eventually in and out of rehabs, it just became a way of life. If you can, it's not that you like it, it's just you kind of adapt to it. Becomes the new
Right.
normal.
Yeah, if it could ever be normal, because that takes a toll on your own emotional health. And, just to like I said, to watch your own child have to struggle through all of that and not understand it. And then, knowing the effects, was it something that was hereditary, or something that was like an onset because of the just, like something traumatic happened that caused it? Or
They actually did think that there was a hereditary link. So his uncle, his it wouldn't be his, I don't know if it was his uncle or his great uncle, but somebody on his dad's side of the family had full-blown schizophrenia. And so was schizoaffective. In case people don't know what that is, it's kind of a cross between schizophrenia and bipolar. So it's you have like, you can have the hallucinations and the paranoia of the schizophrenia, but you can also have the mood changes with the bipolar. You can have that the psychotic or the mania, and you can also have the depression. And so that's what it is. And so yeah, he had a more distant family member that had the schizophrenia. So that's what we thought. So it's hard to really know.
yeah. And it must have been devastating. I mean, what was it like when you found out that did he end up taking his life?
No, he did not commit suicide. That we know for a fact. So unfortunately, the autopsy report was not super clear. And luckily I had a really long conversation with the medical examiner. She was wonderful. She said that she felt that his death was resulting from alcoholism. And so because he, beside having a drug problem, he had an alcohol problem, and he had been clean from drugs about 6 months before he died, but he was really drinking huge amounts of alcohol. And the thing is there were huge amounts of empty bottles, in his room when he died, but there was no alcohol in his system. So he had, she said he had a condition in the autopsy report called hyponatremia, and she said it's like an imbalance, and it can be related to, it can be caused by like going through detox from alcohol, stopping drugs, and it can cause cells to swell, especially cells in your brain or cells in other organs, and that can result in death. So we don't know exactly, we just know he had this hyponatremia, could have been caused, he had all this alcohol in his there, but none in his system. So his body could have gone into some kind of a shock and a detox. So we're not sure exactly what happened.
I've heard about, I've read articles about that in the past, that a lot of, like the addiction to heroin, when they get arrested and they put them in jail, if they don't properly detox, they can end up dying. And it's such a, people are not aware of this. And I know one of the ladies I interviewed for the series, her son passed away from fentanyl overdose, and she's down in Florida, I believe. Yeah, Florida. And she's really trying to raise awareness about this, because, we know, but we don't know. We don't understand the effects, and you can't just, stop doing something without getting like the proper medical treatment and all, to be sure that your body can handle it. Because we abuse our bodies with anything we put into it. Like we have this processed food, and we don't drink enough water, and we don't get enough sleep, and we just, my mom used to tell me, you're burning the candle at both ends. And it's like, I don't care, and you get so emotionally hurt, and just in this sadness, especially when you add the bipolar and this, the other personality disorders and all of that. It's really powerful things what our mind does and how our body responds when we don't get the proper care. But then maybe we do get it, and then it's too late, or we're not consistent, or whatever happens. And it's just heartbreaking for families to have to go through that. So when you found out, you went on the healing journey to process that grief, what was the biggest challenge for you?
I mean, I went through a lot. I mean, when I first found out, I think my body was just in shock. And it took some time for it to be real, I mean, I knew it happened on one level, but it didn't feel 100% real. It's hard to explain. It's kind of like you're living life, but you're just going through the motions and you're not really there.
Yeah.
That was how it felt
You're
immediately. Yeah, you're numb. And in the beginning days, the biggest thing that helped me in the very early stages was just being really gentle on myself and not pushing myself to do anything, like not doing anything that I didn't feel like doing. And I really just took it easy. And maybe for the first time ever. So I really just took it easy and gave myself whatever I needed. And I just, I was in bed a lot, but not necessarily like in bed, crying all of the time. The tears came on and off, but just because my bed was comforting, my covers were comforting, it just felt warm and cozy, and just, just not pushing myself. And then, the other things that, it was kind of a journey. Then connecting with, the next step was, I spent a lot of time connecting with my other two kids. They're in their 20s, and they had a loss too, and so we all were going through the same thing. So even when I didn't feel up to seeing other people, like friends, I could always see my other two kids because we had these shared memories, these shared beautiful memories. And we would get together and we would talk about those memories, and like we would temporarily get lost in those memories. And so for short moments, we would have this good feeling. And then eventually we started looking at the pictures together, and I've got so many photos of, you know, them growing up and everything. And we've got so many memories. And even, you know, as I started, you know, letting other people know, or people found out and they reached out to me, but certain people in my life that had known my son, connecting with them, somehow I felt connected to him more by connecting with people who actually really knew him, not just knew of him. And so that was helpful. And connecting to him, figuring out, like when he first died, I kept hearing his voice, "Hey mom, it's Alex. Hey mom, it's Alex." And this had a significance when he was young adult, and he, you know, lose his phone, drop his phone, end up in the hospital without his phone, and call from a strange phone. So he'd say, "Hey mom, it's Alex." And I kept hearing that voice constantly after he died, until I figured out that he was trying to tell me what he was trying to tell me all those other times, that I'm safe, I'm okay. And so that's what as soon as I figured out, that went away. And so I talk to him every night, though. Every night before I go to bed, I talk out loud to him. A few nights after the funeral, I could really feel his presence. And my dog was like, he was there. I know he was with us in the room, because my dog, like, I'm sure my dog saw him. She was like running in circles and figure eights for a long time. It was so interesting. But even though I don't feel his presence all the time now, I just talk to him every night. And then the next level of what really started to help me was like, I had this calling to sign up for this book writing course, and I've never done this before. And I didn't think I had the capacity to listen to any course or anything, but I did. I signed up and I listened, and I decided to write a book. And that has been so healing for me. That has been like, I'm writing a book, I'm sharing my story of the love and loss of my son. And so I'm going through basically kind of what I just told, you know, we shared with you, the journey that we took. And because I hope to, by sharing this, to help other parents who are going through, and know that, you know, you can navigate these challenges along the way with love and compassion, and you can go on after losing a child. And so this book has become my passion. And then the interesting thing is, like, simultaneously, I was like rethinking the whole meaning of my life, like rethinking my purpose. Why am I here? And I came up with wanting to take my coaching business in a new direction, to coach parents of teens and young adults, especially with mental illness and addiction. And so it just kind of came up that these two, the coaching, the new direction with the coaching and my book, coincided. And then I just felt totally aligned. And that's what motivates me every day, is like working on these things. Because grieving is a process. Like, you'll always be growing, you know. It's not like I'm going to get over losing him. Like, I've lost him, my life is forever different. And
Yes.
but through these two vehicles, it just gives me so much meaning and purpose to just go on and to make my life feel more meaningful. And I still miss him so much. It's not been long at all, and it's hard, but these two things help me tremendously.
Yeah. And that it's so true. You never will stop grieving, and, you know, it'll get easier. You know, everyone says, well, as time goes by, it gets easier. I don't think it ever gets easier. I think it gets different, you know, because you have a different perspective and you learn, and you, like, you know, you, I said, like, you know, you talk to him every night, and, you know, you have the pictures, you have the memories, and, you know, obviously it's your child. So you have that connection, you know, with him, because he came from your womb. And just all of the things that you go through. And it's just so important to continue that grieving process and process it. And what a beautiful way to share that story in a book that's going to help others and just create that beautiful ripple effect. And I know drugs and alcohol are huge. I mean, they've really gotten our young people. And now, you can't even be safe. I mean, I know marijuana has been around for a long time. And I know when I was growing up, it was safe. Came out of the ground. It was just a plant, and and they would grind it up and smoke it. But now it's like they're adding stuff to it, and kids are, smoking it, and it's got harmful things in it. And it's just like, no, this has got to stop. And it's affecting our future generation. So what a powerful message for you to completely turn your coaching business around to help these women, these moms and these dads that are experiencing something similar. And maybe you can join force after the show. I'll share with you the persons that had the fentanyl experience, and maybe you guys can collaborate. I don't know, what state are you in?
Absolutely. I'm in Virginia, but I know about the fentanyl. I mean, I almost lost my son at least 4 other times before he passed away. And those 4 other times were related to drug overdoses. And I relate to the heroin story as well. He was addicted to heroin, so he was on something called Suboxone so that he would not use heroin. And so yeah, it was, I mean, it was a big danger. I mean, there were times where we didn't think he was going to make it, and he was in the ICU, or he was really pretty much just about not even going to make it to the hospital, in the ambulance, them trying to revive him. So we went through quite a lot during his lifetime with that. And it is unfortunate that a lot of these drugs out there are just so potent. And like you said about the fentanyl, it's become just a huge, huge problem. And not only do we almost lose him a few times, but he lost so many of his friends over the years, like, because a lot of his friends use drugs as well. And he lost a lot of them to fentanyl and heroin overdoses.
So sad. I know my youngest is 24, and we were talking yesterday, and he was talking about a girl he knew had passed away in a nearby town. And I was like, wow, I said, this is like the 3rd or 4th person you're in your age group that you've lost. I said, that's so sad. And I don't know the details around the death, but it's just really sad that these young people their lives are ending when they're just at the prime of beginning their lives. So it's just so super sad. But thank you so much for sharing your journey. And what's the title of your book again?
Oh, it's Finding My Purpose Amidst the Tears, My Journey of the Love and Loss of My Son Through His Mental Illness and Addiction. And
Awesome.
hopefully it will come out. I haven't finished it yet. I'm still writing it. So hopefully I'll be done
published soon.
At the end of this year. Yeah, hopefully published. Yeah. Hopefully towards the beginning of next year. But yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, it's gonna help so many. It's gonna be a beautiful healing piece for others as well. What's the best way for people to get and connect with you?
Yeah, so they can reach me through my website at debbiegailcoaching.com. I'm also on Facebook, Debbie Gail Coaching. I'm also on Instagram, Debbie Gail Coaching. Send me a message. Any of those would work. The website will go right to my email.
Okay, awesome. And we'll put those links in the description. So if you're listening to this and you would like to connect with Debbie, you have a loss of a child with this similar situation, or you know someone, please share this recording with them, connect with Debbie. Again, the links will be in the description. Really easy to find, debbiegailcoaching.com. So you can't forget that. And thank you again, Debbie, for being here, for sharing your healing journey story. And excited to read your book once it does come out. And I'm sure that will be posted on your website as well. So remember, if you know someone that can resonate with Debbie's story, please share this with them. And if you have any questions, reach out, connect with her, send Debbie a message. Healing is so important. When we reveal, we heal. And as Debbie had shared, processing, grieving, it's never going to stop. It's always going to be with you, but you're going to have different reactions as you process those emotions. If thoughts were a person that came knocking on the door, would you let them in? Instead of repelling your thoughts, you want to receive them and work through them, because what we reveal heals. Mindset is the crux of all that we do. It's a matter of the heart.